We're going to discuss some Bitcoin attacks together? Do you want your bone? What if I throw it? Go get it! Alright, let's get started. The value of the Bitcoin market is over $150 billion. It's bigger than Tesla, it's bigger than Costco, and it's bigger than McDonald's. But it's still just a splash of water in the financial ocean. So in this video, I'll give you 3 major threats to the Bitcoin network from what I see as being the smallest risk to the biggest. I'm Josh Cross from DeFi Now, and I had my good friend Steve Irwin, but he ran away. Irwin and I both got a haircut after our last video, and now he looks like a dog instead of an Ewok. Don't you, buddy? As I said, in this video I'll go over 3 potential threats to the Bitcoin network. And at the end of the video, I'll give you a bonus on how Bitcoin can overcome these risks, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Last September, NASA released a document stating that Google had achieved quantum supremacy using a programmable superconducting processor. While the phrase quantum supremacy using a programmable superconducting processor sounds intense, like it's the birth of Skynet or something, it's actually a very simple concept. What it means is that a quantum computer has managed to do one single, very specialized task better than a traditional computer. In this case, they used a quantum computer to generate a sequence of random numbers by using quantum mechanics. It's possible for a traditional computer to simulate quantum mechanics here, but it would take thousands of years, even with the world's most powerful supercomputer. The reason quantum computers are a big deal is because they can theoretically be used to break certain types of cryptography. Without getting too much in the weeds here, just understand this. Bitcoin uses public-private key cryptography. You can think of your public key as your bank account number and your private key as your password to log in and send money. Without the private key, no one can access your crypto, including you. Your wallet uses your private key to generate your public key, and your public key is what you send out publicly. Now, you can't derive a private key from a public key. The cryptographic algorithms, also known as fancy math, only work one way. You put in a set of information into one side of the equation and you get something different out the other side. And it doesn't work in reverse. However, with quantum computers, it's theoretically possible to break this encryption and deduce the private key from the public key. But there are 2 reasons why I don't think we should be too worried, for now. The first is, if a quantum computer was created to do this, it would be able to break most encryption in the world. This includes everything on the internet: passwords, emails, corporate and government databases, all exposed. So the problem would be much bigger than Bitcoin. And the second reason is that a large, powerful quantum computer is still theoretical and impractical, so we have time for developers to implement additional quantum-resistant architecture to defend against it. And several teams have already started doing this in the crypto space. It's important to remember that there are more private key combinations than there are atoms in the observable universe. A lot more. Basically, take the number of atoms in the observable universe and it's a drop in the ocean compared to the number of possible private key combinations. It makes it Google look adorable. So I put this threat low on the list, at least for now. For the second threat to the network, I want to go over directed attacks to the network layer. In the Bitcoin network, miners work to guess a specific range of numbers by doing hash functions. Hash functions are another kind of fancy one-way math. The first attack I want to go over is a 51% attack. In a 51% attack, a group of nodes on the network gather enough hash power to become the majority hashing power holder on the network. At that time, they can mine their own version of the blockchain, buy a Lamborghini or helicopter or something else with Bitcoin on the main Bitcoin blockchain, and then afterwards broadcast their own version of the blockchain to the network so they can reverse the transaction and get their Bitcoin back. There are many reasons why this is difficult to pull off for the hacker. First, to buy the mining equipment to control 51% of the network using the most state-of-the-art and efficient mining rig would cost over $20 million. Then they would have to mine for several hours at least at about $700,000 an hour depending on their electricity costs. So comparatively, there wouldn't be a huge economic benefit if they succeeded. And on top of that, they might crash the price of Bitcoin, causing their Bitcoin claims to devalue significantly. Or, instead of attacking, they could mine honestly and earn about 500 Bitcoins per day while strengthening the network. This is one of the reasons Bitcoin is so incredible. It leverages human greed to strengthen the network. And greed can be a good thing, and it's not always a bad thing. There are other attacks as well, such as a denial of service attacks, where the attacker tries to clog the network with transactions and slow it to a standstill. But the network has ways of protecting against this, such as charging a small fees for every transaction. Or there's a Sybil attack, where the attacker controls multiple nodes on the network anonymously, so they can try to push fraudulent transactions through. Bitcoin defends against this with proof of work, or mining. So this attack is prohibitively expensive and not worth the effort. It's important to remember that Bitcoin is under attack every single day, and it has been for over 10 years. But like our immune systems, it gets stronger with each attack. The third threat to Bitcoin I want to cover is what I see as the most relevant threat right now: regulation. First, understand that no government in the world can shut down the Bitcoin network. It's already far too big and decentralized. They can try to stop individual nodes, but then new ones are going to pop up like a global game of whack-a-mole. The threat I'm referring to is making Bitcoin illegal to own or too difficult to be compliant with regulations. You see, Bitcoin is still small enough that if governments of the world outlawed ownership of it, most people would obey because they're not interested. They already think that Bitcoin is just for criminals anyway. And you can bet the narrative from governments would be Bitcoin is for money laundering, terrorism, drug trafficking, their go-to fear-mongering spiel that they use whenever they want to take a bit of our freedoms away. It's important to note that I said Bitcoin is too small right now. When the internet was new, many people said the same kind of things, and if they had shut it down then, they might have succeeded because people weren't using it then. But if they tried to shut it down now, we'd have a revolution on our hands because we all know the value of the internet and we use it every single day. But each day Bitcoin adoption grows, this threat of regulation shrinks. With all of these attacks, there's a common theme. We in the crypto community recognize these threats. We know they're there and we're protecting against them. Bitcoin is anti-fragile. And anti-fragile doesn't mean robust or resilient. It means the more you attack it, the stronger it gets. You may remember back in the early 2000s when Microsoft invested billions of dollars in the intranet. You had this dirty internet full of pornographers, weird chat rooms, scams. Nobody wanted to put their credit card information online. If you met somebody online and you agreed to meet in person, your family and friends are going to tell you not to because you're going to have your organs harvested. And so Microsoft created the intranet, a closed, clean network with a 10-foot tall titanium firewall built around it. Everyone who wants to use it must first be vetted and approved. And as we now know, the intranet was a massive failure because while they have their pristine walled garden, the internet is under attack every single day and building stronger security to protect against them. With all the bureaucracy in the intranet, they couldn't keep up with the technological pace. So all it takes is somebody from your company to go connect to public Wi-Fi, get their work laptop infected with a virus, then the next time they connect to their corporate network, it spreads and the walls come crumbling down. So the internet beat the intranet. And the same thing is happening right now with Bitcoin. Governments and corporations are creating their own digital currencies to compete. And to use them, you'll have to be vetted, you'll have to have your transactions audited to prove you're not laundering money, and of course, this is all for your protection. These won't be decentralized, they won't be open to everyone, they won't have a finite supply, and you won't actually own any of it because your funds can be taken away with a keystroke. And they'll be prone to the same failures of government currencies of the world face today. Or we can use Bitcoin, which is decentralized, open, censorship resistant, has a very finite supply, and you control it outright. Think about it like land. If I were to tell you there were only 21 million acres available to buy, and you can buy an acre for $9,500, would you consider it? This isn't financial advice, but it's definitely something to consider. If you want to know more about how this works, you can read about it in my free blockchain guide linked in the description, and while you're down there, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe if you learned anything. And Erwin's drinking. Yep, no, you just let me know when you're done, buddy. Hey bud, there you go. Today we discussed major threats to Bitcoin. Next Sunday, I've got some exciting personal news to share with you, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next Sunday. Can I have a high five? High five? Yeah, good boy. Where's your toy? Let's go.